Guess what I did last night? I saw Avengers Endgame. So, you know what that means. I'm going to tell you all about it. Went to the movie theater with a couple of buddies out in the Bronx, obviously, to watch this movie. Packed house, had to buy those tickets 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was electric. The whole crowd just wanted to get in there. There was like 1,000,001 trailers for this movie, so everyone was kind of like getting ready to tear the house down, wanting to watch this movie, myself included. And when it started, it was like amazing from beginning to end. And I don't really like saying a movie is a 10 or a 5 out of 5 or anything like that, but it drew my attention the entire time, even the boring parts, and I'll get into that in a moment. And I guess I should say before I even get into this that this is gonna be spoiler filled. If you didn't watch this movie by now, stop, press pause, go watch the movie and come back and press play. You'll be glad you did. So the movie starts off with Hawkeye and his children and his family out on his land. He's teaching his daughter how to shoot arrows, because that's what Hawkeye does, shoots arrows, you know? And we already know from watching Infinity War how this is gonna end. The family's just gonna disappear. And sure enough, but when it happens, it's still like everyone in the audience is kind of like, oh my God, it's still happening. And then we start off the movie. The first act is basically how the world is working without half of its population. So very few humans around. There are Captain America runs a PTSD support group for people who have lost loved ones during this time, during the snap, during the dusting, and how they're going to move forward, which includes an interesting cameo by one of the directors, Joe Russo, who plays a character who learns to love again after the love of his life gets dusted in the snap. So that was a pretty cool scene. You could tell that all these characters are very like messed up about it. That's why I love the fact that they spent so much time telling us how people are getting on after this thing is happening. So they get into that, and they find out where Thanos is. Basically, the first act is about how people are struggling with what's going on and how they're going to get payback. Tony Stark and Nebula are floating out in space somewhere, and they get saved by Captain Marvel and brought back to Earth. And this is when they find out where Thanos is and how to get payback for what he'd done. Turns out that there's a huge energy blast that takes place on this planet far away, and when they get there, they find out that huge energy blast was Thanos using the last of his energy to destroy the Infinity Stones. So now that there's no way possible for any of these people who got dusted to come back to life, which is great because this all happens in like the first 20 minutes of the movie. They approach Thanos and Thor kills him right away, and it just felt like it was so like matter of fact. It was just so you're dead that it just came to the audience like, oh damn, so like that's it. like I spent $15, $18 to watch 20 minutes. Okay, I'm done. But obviously there was more to it. Everybody comes home. Obviously, killing Thanos did not solve anything, which creates another issue with Thor's character, where his own issues with survivor's guilt and things like that make him into an alcoholic and someone who just doesn't really care about himself, his appearance, or the house that he lives in. And it's a part that's been problematic. I've been reading like problems with that from people who actually suffer from these kind of things in real life, where it's kind of played as a joke. The fact that he gets fat and drinks a lot and doesn't shave his beard and has a dirty house and everything is played for laughs. When as obviously in real life, this is a real problem that requires therapy. So yeah, I mean, it is a bit problematic, and I know the jokes are a bit stale, even if it wasn't really that problematic. If it was just a bunch of fat jokes, then, it's still a bit much that he did with Thor. But now we get into the second act, where it's all about how these people go to different times to get these Infinity Stones and bring them back to this current timeline. This is kind of the cool part. Even though the second act is very slow, To me anyway, it's very slow and it just kind of like want it to end. Hurry up, let's get to the action. It is kind of cool to see. This is where you get a lot of the Easter eggs and a lot of the things that almost like a reward for people who have seen the past 10 years of MCU movies. So they split up the groups of Avengers into three. One group goes into where the original Avengers film takes place to take the stones. Another group goes into Thor Part 2 to get the stones out of there that time. And another group goes into Guardians of the Galaxy Part 1 to get the stone from there. And it's kind of cool to see these kind of movies. They imagine having these movies from like a different angle from these new characters, 2019 characters, to see how they've changed and see how their perspective on what's going on in other movies. So that was kind of fun. There's a scene where they need to get the Soul Stone. Anyone who's seen the Infinity War knows that in order to get the Soul Stone, you have to give up the thing you love most. So it's Black Widow and Hawkeye together trying to get the Soul Stone and more or less fighting each other to see which one is going to kill themselves first for this Soul Stone, which is kind of amazing. And it sucks that a beloved character had to go, but so... Like I said, it was a little bit boring only because it took a long time. I'm watching a lot of stuff go on and I'm having to care about a lot of characters at the same time. So while I'm worried about Nebula like betraying, the Avengers, I also have to worry about Thor and his feelings about his mother, because obviously Thor's mother dies in the events of Thor Part 2. So with all that going on, now we're pushed into another scenario where Tony Stark and Captain America are going back to 1970s New Jersey, where for some reason Hank Pym, Howard Stark, and Peggy Carter are all working in the exact same, SHIELD headquarters at the exact same time. I don't know what to tell, but they're all there, so you get a lot of cameos, and we get a lot of like tear-jerking with Captain Rogers seeing Peggy Carter again for the first time in a very long time, the way she looked back in the original Captain America, or close enough to that age, since it's 1970. And then we get a scene with grown Tony Stark with his father, Howard Stark. And it's kind of a little bit tear-jerky with Howard talking about how he's about to be a father for the first time. He has a son, and Tony telling him, you have a daughter, trying to tell his father that you're a granddad without spilling the beans about who he is. So it's kind of like, so there's that. So maybe, if anything, the second act drags it a little bit because there's so much emotional effort expected of the audience to that time. So maybe that's what it is. But third act, the last hour of the film, is where you get the action. It's where you get everything that you've been waiting for. The big battle between the Avengers and Thanos, and the hordes of Thanos' armies versus all of the superheroes and their armies who have been dusted and now are back. And it's like geek-gasm. Every Avenger comes back at the same time with their Infinity Stones. We have the Infinity Stones, awesome. Now let's go and do whatever we gotta do. The Hulk, who I didn't mention, the Hulk is now Professor Hulk, which means it's the best of the Hulk with the best of Bruce Banner put together in one big green smart guy. So he wears the Infinity Stone that Tony Stark makes everything better with a little snap, just in time for Thanos to shoot and destroy that whole building that Captain America wields Thor's hammer, which is awesome. Of all the people who have been dusted in Infinity War, the first hero to come back is the Black Panther. So watching the Black Panther come out and like getting ready to kick some butt was like, yeah, everyone was loving that scene. Probably the first time I ever seen people actually cheer for like, what's his name, the Falcon. It was probably during this scene as well. People have been asking, who dies in this movie? Oh, somebody's definitely gonna die. There's been like Deadpools all over trying to figure out who has the best odds of dying in this movie. And yeah, I mean, just put it right out there. It was Black Widow and Tony Stark who died. And they do a big old funeral scene at the end. I guess, the Earth version of Yondu's funeral from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But yeah, it was a very, like, it was definitely telling the audience that this part of the MCU story is gone. It's time for something new. Which is weird because anyone who's kind of noticed, I kind of, during the funeral scene where everybody's dressed in black and watching, the procession go off and everyone's kind of standing in their own groups based on what movie they were in. so so you have Captain America standing by herself. You have, Peter Parker and Aunt May standing over here and things like that. And it's kind of interesting. You see this young boy standing by himself, and it's like, who the hell is that? Turns out that young boy standing, that teenage boy standing there, is the kid from Iron Man 3, who no one knows and no one cares about. But he's in the movie anyway, so that's kind of fun. And there's a little Easter egg for people to figure out, like, who's that guy? Like, oh, I know who he is. It works for trivia when you're at the bar during trivia night. Hey, that's the kid from Iron Man 3. But anyway, final thoughts. I thought this film was amazing. I said it before, I'll say it again. If I have to give it out of 5 stars, I definitely have to give it 4 stars. What stopped me from giving it a little bit higher score was that second act dragged. But there's a lot of cool stuff for fans, so I kind of understand it. So that was my review for Avengers Endgame. I look forward to seeing it a few more times. I know everybody who's watching now has seen it quite a few times themselves. Tell me what you think about it. Tell me what I got wrong. Tell me what I got it right. Tell me what I'm totally missing out on. Tell me what you think the future of the MCU is. My contact information will be shown later on. You can catch me on social media. You can email me. You can send me a little paper plane message if you live close enough to me. And let me know that way. So until next time, peace. And that's the show. Thank you for watching Bronx Movie Club tonight. You can catch me in a couple of weeks for a brand new episode with a lot more of what you're looking for with movie news and movie reviews. In the meantime, you can also catch me on social media. I'm at Bronx Movie Club on Instagram, on Stardust, and on Letterboxd. You can catch me on Twitter at Movie Bronx. And yeah, you have a great evening. And I'll see you around. You just saw a segment of the Bronx Movie Club hosted by me, Justin McCullough. If you like what you see, please do not hesitate. Click on the subscribe button down below, click on the little bell up there, and click the like button because you obviously like the program. You can see other segments of my show, which I have in my video section. I have the most anticipated movies of 2019. I have some reviews that you would like to watch, things of that nature. And you can also catch me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Stardust, Letterboxd, you name it, I'm there. So yeah, I'll see you soon.